Welcome everybody, how you all doing? So we're here today with the JoJo podcast. It's been a while, has really been quite a long time. I think the last time we did one was like episode 15 or so, so it's been a good few weeks. But I'm joined by a bunch of fabulous people. We're gonna have a few more later on join as well. I'll just say I'll let you all introduce yourselves in whichever order you want to go, and then we'll talk about certain topics that happened in the show. Who wants to start with introducing himself?
I'll go to Mackenzie Critiques.
Grease Lightning Reactions right here.
I'm just Ryan. More about me.
You're a reactor as well, right? You're a reactor as well.
Former.
Former, yeah. True.
That counts.
Maybe one day.
When the right show comes around to grab your attention, I guess. But yeah, there's so much to talk about when it comes to JoJo Part 5. And we do have like a list of things that we do want to talk about, but, you know, we can obviously go off topic and talk about whatever. But, you know, based on a list, let's talk about Abbacchio. Well, I don't want to start with this one. I'll let you go. I'll let you lot go first, because Abbacchio to me, there's a lot of that I want to talk about.
I know. One thing people said was comparing Abbacchio's death to Narancha's death, and which one had the most impact, right? I personally feel like Abbacchio's, even though it felt kind of foreshadowed slightly due to some of the stuff that happened in that episode, like him looking up at the clouds and just being isolated. I thought that was shocking. That was for me the most shocking death in the show. I don't know about you guys. Like, how do you guys feel about that compared to the other deaths?
I mean, I agree with that, honestly. The Narancia death, I mean, it was surprising, but it almost didn't give me enough time to like even think about it. Like, you know, like
1 minute, dead, 1 minute he's just on the railings, like dead, like
yeah. It's like, what the hell just happened? Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think his death wasn't the focus of his scene. That's the difference for me.
Yeah.
Like, the focus was that Diabolo was around, and things were about to go, poorly for the rest of the gang.
Yeah.
And then for Baki, they even had like a drawn out, like really touching scene with him in the afterlife with all this metaphorical imagery and all this. So
yeah, I think the thing I like about Abbacchio's one is that when he died, it's like they did linger on it, and he had that moment, right, with the police officer, right, one of his partners, talking about a good detective, and a good detective always like sniffs it out right until the end and all that. Like I felt as though because we'd seen more development for Abbacchio, it felt like it was a very definitive death, if you know what I mean, where he's definitely dead, but it feels emotionally like resonant. But with Narancha's, it was like everyone was body swapped, so your feelings towards that character was very, very visual. So when I saw Giorno on the railings, I didn't really see Narancha. I just saw Giorno, knowing that Narancha's like his soul is inside that body. I don't know. Did you guys feel less emotion or more emotion if you'd actually seen Narancha there in his actual form?
Definitely more. Like, that's one of the things I don't like about the body swap. Like, seeing, Mista and Trish's body screaming over him, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Hard to get as attached to just seeing regular Mista over him, I felt.
Well, that's the one thing. He got killed brutally, and then, he's like a hollow husk and all, but then that Giorno's back up and about in his body right after that. It's almost like it didn't happen, and his soul kind of drifted away. Like, you can't even look at his corpse and look at, make that association that he's dead.
Yeah. I think that they felt, this part felt like they weren't trying to tug on emotions, right, for deaths as much as like Stardust Crusaders was, where the music all kicks in. It's like Diavolo's one of these sneaky bastards, right? Like, just hit and run.
All the deaths were just sudden. You don't have time to prepare for them.
Yeah. And I thought Narancha's was more like, oh fuck, like, someone drew my attention to the fact that King Crimson and Diavolo were like spying on the group, right? And he's like, he was waiting for his moment to just pick him off. I like that, because it actually says more about Diavolo than it does just the death itself, right? Oh, this guy's dead, and because it has to happen. It just kind of built him up more than someone differentiates it from Kira, right? Like, the way Kira was, who was also trying to hide his identity. But this guy's a little bit more proactive. He's always on the scene. He's always following him. He's not just trying to hide and run, right? Like Kira was in Part 4. So I felt, even though I was kind of disappointed with how I felt, I thought I'd be more sad. It did a lot to build the villain up more than anything, I think.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Personally, like, I binged the last 10 episodes or so, and like the Abakio death, I was like, oh damn, that one actually put me into a pause of a little bit, where I was like, oh, maybe it isn't a good idea to binge it. But yeah, the later death.
I think binging's the best way to watch this show. Considering the pacing and the cliffhangers. Particularly those last 10 episodes, I would think that would be good to binge.
Well, you see, I disagree, because usually I like talking about things like that. I like talking about like what happened, especially emotional moments with people. And when you're binging, you really don't have the opportunity to talk about things, because obviously you're catching up. So
you in a rush, would you say, that you just needed to get through it before you collected your thoughts? You couldn't really collect it after each. Yeah, I see what you mean.
There's no breathing period, so
they didn't even play on it. Like, the whole time he I think he's not the youngest. Like, Giorno's the youngest, right, in the group.
14, right? Is he not 14? Sorry, how old is he?
Trish?
15.
15.
Giorno's 15.
15.
Yeah, I think.
And then I think he's he's 16.
Trish is like 14, right?
Is she? I don't know Trish's age, but most of the entire time during this part, they kind of played up his whole, like, he was the most childish out of all of them.
Yeah.
But they didn't even play on that at all. Like, I thought that maybe if they were gonna kill him off, that they'd play on him being a little bit more innocent. He was also the one that took the longest to get over Abakio's death.
Yeah.
They didn't even play on that at all. Like, he didn't get a moment. Like, his death was so sudden that they couldn't even focus on any thematic relevance at all.
You're right, and I think even more than that, Journal got a really, really short end of the stick in this part, because he was more like the save the day medic sort of character who, when everything else was failing, he has something up his sleeve. But it always felt like they wanted to do more with this character. Like, I feel like Narancia I really love. Like, he's memorable, he sticks out. Bruno is memorable, he sticks out. But I think, if we're gonna say, they didn't do anything with Narancia or these guys, I think Journal they probably did the least with. I still felt they glossed over at the end as well. Like, okay, Journal's now this savior now. It's all on him, the spotlight, and I felt like they did linger on all these characters that we actually love more than these characters. Like Bruno, for example. Bruno was like front and center for me this season, this show, right? He had all the good moments, all the good fights, the emotional moments. And then for it to just be like, Journal gets the spotlight at the end, and we don't get to trail off with these characters, it was kind of a missed opportunity, I think.
You guys didn't. I remember the last podcast we had, you guys were suspecting Giorno to be this complicated backstabbing character. Yeah. I guess you guys just haven't warmed up to him this entire time.
I think they even the intro that changed. In the last episode or two, they changed the intro to have him pose like Dio. I felt like they were
that was great.
baiting the audience that maybe there was more to Journal than we thought. Like, what happened to the drugs? Like, I thought this was all about drugs, right? But it was such a flimsy motivation considering how they wrapped it up at the end. I know Dio got basically shanked by a crackhead, which is like ironic, right? Bitterly ironic for him. But the motivation was kind of flimsy. Like, that motivation kind of got lost throughout the whole show in a way.
You guys looked into the background behind this story and the mindset that the author was in when he was writing this?
Yeah, people gave me a whole essay on it. Yeah, he had different plans for Fugo as well, but he was so
up till that Fugo part. Apparently, he was super depressed and all this other stuff. That's why a lot of people claim that the first part is a little more disjointed because of his mental state at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Interesting.
But as far as Abakio's death is concerned, which was the original subject, I I think it's interesting that it was really strong in another sense because we'll talk. I want to talk about it later, but when we're talking about Diabolo, we're always talking about how he's really about the end justifies the means, all results oriented.
Yeah.
And Bakio's scene, it really highlights the difference between the main cast and what Diabolo is up to, because they have that whole scene about when he's underneath the table when they're looking for those shells with his when he doesn't realize it's his friend under there when he's already died.
Yeah.
And he's talking about, what happens if you don't find any shells and, you're not going to catch someone. It's not worth it at all. Like, what's the point of even doing something? And he talks about how, like, it's like the pursuit is really what's the important part, and maybe along the line it'll lead to something good. That's really the whole part, which was highlighted in Baki.
Yeah. I think it's also because it happened in the context of a great series of episodes, right? Like the manhunt for Diavolo, Risotto coming so close to killing him. You're just about to get him, and it's like getting away, right? Like the pursuit aspect of it, like a manhunt for Diavolo. That stuff was just really great, and the fact that not only did Diavolo get away, it wasn't a Kira situation. It was like he got away and he managed to cheap shot someone we really cared about. Yeah. I think the context is what that made that death the best thing. I think, as opposed to Narancha's death, which was amongst so much weirdness and chaos and body switching and the arrows and Chariot Requiem, and there's so many things going on that you kind of you're all in it's too many factors.
But I do feel that works really well with him though as a character, considering that he's always all over the place. So his death being all over the place too, I think that kind of works with his character.
Yeah.
Naranchus. But yeah, I mean, you were right with what you were saying. The risotto fight, that was outstanding. And then from that to go right into a sucker punch like that with Abakio, that is just a great way to highlight a villain. Because at that point I was thinking, okay, what is going on? Is he crazy? Is he nuts? Is he actually not the boss? What is going on?
Yeah.
That risotto fight was probably my favorite fight of the entire series.
Sorry, which one?
The risotto against Diabolo.
That was
Doppio part.
Actually, come to mention it, Doppio is such a more fascinating character than Diabolo.
I never talked about it.
Yeah, we never. Yeah, we should talk about Doppio actually, because I know Ryan wants to talk about it. But I actually wanted to quickly ask Ryan, did they handle it as far as the adaptation goes around all that stuff with Risotto and Doppio and the death of Abaki? Did they handle it right? Or was there anything cut?
There's three factors in which I think they improved upon, and that's Abachio's death, the Doppio stuff and Risotto fight, and the Trish stuff.
Yeah.
Trish versus what's it called on the plane, whatever that stands called.
BIG.
BIG.
Big. Yeah.
Those are the three things I think they improved a lot from the manga.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Doppio was, for me, actually, of all the characters in this show, Doppio was the standout for me in terms of how memorable he was, because he was just a passenger almost, and he was being led, right? And he was kind of almost he's not innocent, he's still kind of deranged, but you're kind of rooting for him at the same time. In that moment, he's hiding, he's fucked over. Risotto just tears him to shreds.
I want a Risotto to kick his ass. Okay.
I agree.
I do both. You don't want to see Doppio get killed, but you don't want to see Risotto's. I've seen everyone he's been working with dead lose to some little chump.
I didn't mind at all. I wanted to see Doppio win, in all honesty. I like Risotto from his character design, but I just liked craziness aspect of Doppio.
Yeah.
And I'm a sucker for crazies.
You like the crazy? Yeah. When we see the original flashback, when we're getting a little bit of his past, honestly, Doppio looks like the kid that was shown in the flashbacks before he became deranged and he found his mother's body.
Yeah.
So there's some theories about dissociative identity disorder, and basically that the Doppio is this innocent and basically nice guy. he doesn't know as much about, like, he has no idea who the boss really is. He just knows that he's trusted. He's a trusted dude with him. He's just trying to be loyal to someone that he knows. But like, he's super nice to everyone. That kid that tried to get him hit by a truck, he didn't like do anything to him when he saw the murder of that like fortune teller dude. Like, he has like a nice conscience. But then even his stand power, he has the epitaph part of the stand. It's also like a very passive, non-violent stand, and then you go to the Diabolo side, and it's all aggression and erasing the past. Because, like, the theory is that Doppio, the Doppio part is the innocent part, and he's trying to hide from his past, and he created Diabolo to erase all of it, basically.
Yeah.
Right? Because he wants to hide from what happened to his mom and how he was born from a prison. Those are all vulnerabilities, and that's why he created a persona that's obsessed with erasing the past.
Yeah, but it was also weird that not weird, but it was like the fact that the dominant personality within him, which was the boss, like Diavolo himself, had to give him manifest King Crimson in him while he was Doppio. So I always felt like it was someone described like Split. You know that movie Split where it had like lots of different personalities, right? And there's always one dominant personality which is in the driver's seat, even if Doppio is manifested as he is. So one thing that confused me is there I two personalities, Doppio and the boss, or is there actually more than that? Because I know I think so. Because there was this hulking one, this guy that tended. You know when he hulked out and he had that guy against the wall. I wasn't sure if that was Diabolo. That was Diabolo. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because when they did the whole body switching thing, if there were more personalities, there probably would have been more.
Third mind or something.
Yeah.
But it's kind of bittersweet how Doppio even turns out to be a casualty of everything that's going on. Even his little death, where you see Bruno's his like a soul floating above him, like it's like a double image, and when he's just like he didn't even know what the hell went on. You know what I mean? Amongst all this chaos, where he died basically because of the switch between the bodies and being in a body which was just completely decimated, right? He was an innocent casualty as well. Like, even though all the heinous shit he did, I felt really, really sorry for him. I think of all the deaths actually in this show, his one was actually really quite effective, which is kind of great because his character stuck out to me quite a bit.
See,
you didn't feel sympathetic for him?
Nah, not at all. Like I said, I like the crazies, but I don't like them that much.
I don't know. I think right. You'd agree with me, right? We like Doppio a lot, right, as a character. I just felt kind of like he was a sweet boy. Like Grease actually did the best at explaining that. He is a kind-hearted kid. You know what I mean? That just is just not the dominant one in that body, right? So he was just not bystander, but he was like along for the ride, right? But he didn't really matter at the end when Diabolo took control.
It's like, I mean, the personality might be that way, but like, it's like looking at like a murderer and being like, oh man, one part of him's pretty sweet, but that killer side.
Yes, but he was mentally. Diabolo was 100% on the ball. He never came across mentally ill, but Doppio's side always came across. Even the whole ringing thing, anything's a phone, a piece of bread, a cigarette. There was something clearly wrong with Doppio, and that was because I don't know whether it was because of this dissociative identity disorder, or just that Doppio was just so messed in the head that he was just this follower. He just followed everything. Nothing was his own decision. Everything was Diabolo's decision. So I felt sorry for him because he generally came across really deranged and mentally ill. So I think that part of it made me a bit sympathetic towards him.
Well, it brings across the age-old question of, say I commit murder and I kill 10 people, and then I hit my head and I forget who I am. Should I still be punished or not? That's kind of the whole issue with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. How'd you deal with that? He's the head of a crime organization with police who are on his side, right? So he probably never has to face the consequences of that. But you know what? One thing I did notice though, he didn't kill everyone. When he knew it would cause, there was a woman, a cleaning woman who came into the room while he was staying in one of the rooms.
Yep.
He could have killed her, but he didn't. And there was a moment where somebody in the alleyway saw him, and he didn't actually kill the guy. I think he only really kills anyone that's actually physically in his way, like is an obstacle. Anyone else, he didn't do it. Whereas Kira, if someone even sniffed onto his identity and where he is and what he's doing, he would just murder them, get one of his bombs and just have them blow up, spontaneously combust or some shit. He actually was a lot smarter about it, so he didn't indiscriminately kill. I will say, because I noticed that throughout the show.
Yeah, I think the other thing is he's really smart about keeping his trail pretty cold. So any random people that he's murdering, it's just gonna make it more complicated for him. That fortune teller dude had to die. He knew that there was two personalities and all this. That's why he murdered him.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a pretty cold and calculating person. That's the only reason he survived this long.
Yeah. You think, actually, you know what, talking about that, there's something that's not on that list, which is Fugo's bowing out of the show. A lot of people dislike him. A lot of people think he's actually pretty, smart to have ducked out, considering what happened. You know what I mean?
I would have
dipped. What
dipped.
do you guys feel about Fugo?
I would have dipped. If I was in his shoes, I would have been like, yep, you know what, I'm out. Peace out. See you later. I'm out. That would have been me straight away in that situation. There is no loyalty when it comes to my life. I'm a scumbag and a coward.
He did make the smart decision. Considering everything that happened later, he did make a smart decision. But then you have to question about his loyalty to his team and Bruno himself. And then they did mention that this isn't just about loyalty to Bruno. This is about loyalty to the organization. If I bow out now, they won't hunt me down. I won't be held accountable. Nor, will I be getting close to the sun when it comes to going down this road. I think we might have done, like you say, Prince. We would have, we don't know if we'd have made that decision if we'd just gone with Bruno into the Dragon's Den, right? I think he gets a lot of shit from some people for ducking out, but at the same time, I don't like the fact that he was kind of written out of the adaptation, because then it's just one character you don't get to know as much about. You built him up, you gave him a flashback, he was abused, bang, and he doesn't get no closure almost. So I don't know how to balance those two. It's a smart decision in the writing. We would have probably made that decision, but we don't get to know anything about this character at all, so.
I mean, the major thing that we learned about in the flashback really was that he values logic above everything else, honestly.
Yeah.
Even though in his past, logic didn't get him very far because his parents just wanted him to be the best, but he never was really acknowledged for it.
Yeah.
So the only thing he knows is the logical side, but he also has a depression basically based on his experience with it. So, I mean, there's continuations for him. I don't know if you guys know about there's a couple novels or something.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
Yeah, flesh it out. But he apparently Fugo is the author's favorite character. So.
Yeah, everything I heard about the whole mindset of Araki when he was writing this part, people were telling me that he had lots of ideas for Fugo, but he was so down and depressed that he just couldn't do that to project that onto people, like the grimness of Fugo being a traitor. I think someone told me they had Fugo originally being a traitor to the group, but I don't know what decision was made, whether the whole thing, like you say, that he's logical, so he bowed out, or whether he just decided to write Fugo out of the whole story because he just didn't know what to do with him. I don't know how that was informed. You know what I mean? Writing a character out is fine if you base it on something, on his personality. But we don't know for sure if it was just informed by, he's the logical character, this is the decision he would make. But at the same time, objectively, we just don't get anything more for this character beyond that. But then even the novels apparently weren't written by Araki, were they? Or were they written by him?
I'm pretty sure they were informed by his notes that Araki had written, and I think he helped oversee it. But I mean, even that part was, it's basically Fugo getting hired by the organization to murder the gang.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
Ran,
that's
you were saying that it goes beyond the events of the show, right? Doesn't it? The books, the novels, or do they not? Ryan, you there?
you might have been.
I just realized I've been muted this whole time.
Yeah. So yeah. Do they go
Yeah.
beyond the events of the show?
Yeah, basically, I love the Fugo novel. I desperately wanted to be adapted. Basically, I think it goes a few months after Part 5 ends, and it basically delves into Fugo's mindset and how bad he feels about leaving, and he meets back up with Mista and Giorno right at the beginning, and basically they're not happy with him, and it goes on from there. You kind of and introduces a bunch of new characters and stuff. Just goes into Fugo and helps him develop as a character. It's everything you would want from Fugo.
Yeah.
It's development. He honestly gets more developed than any other character in the whole part.
Yeah.
Since this whole novel. Yeah.
It would have felt kind of out of place if they just tacked it onto the end of this show, because then you're wondering why are they focusing on Fugo.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense to do that. Just hope for an OVA somewhere down the line, but since it's not directly written by Araki, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
But all they did was oversee and do character designs and stuff like that for it. Yeah.
I was waiting for him to get his little bit of redemption because, I mean, his whole stand was even supposed to be like an isolating presence.
That's part of the reason I heard they writ him out, because his stand was too hard to write in certain fights, apparently.
But it was so different from him, right? And it wasn't like he had control over it, right? It's
an instant kill almost to people.
Yeah, I know some people were saying it, but I think Araki never said that. It's just people's logic.
Yeah. To me, that makes no sense.
Yeah, it's not like confirmed, but it would make sense if that's part of the reason.
Yeah, to me, that makes no sense.
It gets even deadlier in it.
The stands in the novels are absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
It's like
I'm sorry, but to me that makes absolutely no sense considering you have folks that can control time. You have so many crazy things that are going on that I'm pretty sure he'd never write himself into a corner.
Sure.
I did, like, whenever a new stand user came up, right, against the group, I always did kind of think in my head, like, what if scenarios about what if Fugo was here? Do you think the outcome of this battle would be a little bit different? Because we'll talk about Cioccolata actually next on the list next, right? But Cioccolata's ability is like a widespread area of effect sort of ability, which spreads the more it spreads amongst the people that it affects, right? And I thought to myself, damn man, like it reminds me a little bit of Fugo's ability because he has like a virus almost that spreads, right? And how would that have fared against this particular thing? So I'm with Prince. Like you had Cioccolata, a stand user there, who had a really, really strange and infectious ability. It wouldn't have been too much to write for Fugo, in my opinion. Only the fact that it's sort of out of control, it might have been the difficult part. So.
You've got a gorilla who is a ship in part 3. I think nothing's, nothing's out the table.
Yeah.
I think you can kind of go back to the trader. I think the trader thing one. I think Fugo's stand kind of writes better as a villain stand almost.
Yeah, you're right though. Yeah. It was very great. It didn't look. It doesn't look as elegant, right? Well, it looks elegant, but it looks very much like a villain stand. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah. It's indiscriminate is the thing. His stand is indiscriminate, so yeah, he has no control over it. So you can imagine that it would be, for a antagonist. Yeah.
Hey, sorry I'm running late.
Oh, hi.
Yo. Yeah, sorry I came in late. I was taking a call earlier. Yeah.
And we're just talking about Fugo. What are your thoughts on Fugo?
I didn't really remember much because there was at one point where they left him behind and while Giorno and the others were like sailing off somewhere. But my memory on Fugo was kind of a little fuzzy compared to the others.
Yeah, you kind of binged part 5, didn't you? Since you were behind.
Yeah, I was binging part 5 mostly because I was busy with watching other things. But then as I was binging, I realized there was like a crap ton of cliffhangers. I'm like, okay, good that I waited until near the end of the series to finally catch up.
Yeah, I mean, that speaks to what Prince said, that when you're binge watching it, it's hard to formulate, like, nuanced thoughts. You kind of formulate your thoughts right at the end when you're finished with it. So
Yeah.
it can be hard to just formulate, like, a whole,
Yeah, and I especially remember your live reactions, especially when the episode ended. You were like, come on, don't do this to me, man.
Yeah.
That was actually, I'm not gonna lie, those were.
They were deadly cliffhangers, yeah.
Hey, at least you get to hear freaking you or that Enigma sign. Can't remember the name.
Yeah, Modern Crusaders. Yeah, Modern
Crusaders.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So we had is it the Rome stuff right after Abukio's death, Prince? All that stuff that happened in Rome, or was there something?
Yeah, that's when Diabolo was talking about how they need to get the other two on board, Secco and Cioccolata, even though he doesn't want them to.
Yeah. You know, actually, before we go on to the Rome stuff, Risotto, like I kept expecting Risotto to show. He gave you little glimpses of Risotto on this hunt, right? Because he's also wanting to take revenge or following this trail, right? To whoever killed Gelato and Sorbet and was bumping. I was really impressed with Risotto. I do wish that we got a little bit more Risotto. Because he is the leader of he's the Bruno of his group. You know what I mean? His side group, he's the Bruno of his group.
I'm pretty sure if he didn't look cool, you wouldn't feel that way.
Wait a second.
Yeah, absolutely.
Best thing about him is his design.
Yeah, his design.
So that's the only good thing.
Like, you know, the Phantom Troop in Hunter x Hunter. It just reminds me of that for this squad, right? Team Execution, right? And you're right though about the look. He looks so badass, and his stand is called Metallica.
Metallica. Come on.
Yeah, so it's hard to
I loved him as soon as I saw him the first time. And his stand, like all the stands usually have, they have references.
Yeah.
And they kind of make a reference from like a surface level. His has like a lot of references from his, and his is really well designed all around.
Yeah,
like his characters, his powers are super nuanced. Even the way he like ends up being bested by Diabolo has something to do with Metallica.
Yeah,
like like the song "Master of Puppets."
Yeah,
it makes sense with his sustainability, where he can take over. Like he took over Aerosmith.
Yeah.
What was that? And Enter Sandman, I think the song. There's a part where it goes like, always sleeping with one eye open. It kind of highlights like how careful of a person he was, and the one moment he wasn't careful was the moment he died.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. I love Risotto.
Yeah. I like Risotto. I was happy with his showing. Like he got the spotlight in his back, and he's got such a visceral ability. Like how can you have a stand called Metallica and his abilities are very. I hate to say heavy metal. I know it's stupid to say because literally he's extracting iron from people's bodies and just making razor blades come out of throats and pins and needles and all this shit. So he was badass. Like I wish they'd maybe brought that to the front. His particular hunt or his journey, right? His emotional, because it was a very emotional journey for them. Because we were just as invested in Team Execution, Pesci, Prosciutto. We were really rooting for them in that train, the train, all that stuff on the train. So for them to not do that for him and him be this stoic leader who finally got the drop on Doppio, I felt maybe could have brought a bit more emotional resonance to it because he literally lost his whole group to this chase. So I like that parallel that was going on. It was a parallel story being told alongside Team Bruno's journey. So
I just like the fact that he is the only other person besides Giorno that he was like a second away from finishing.
He was, man. He was. I love that. He was so close to it, man. They snatched it away, man.
I just you could have picked something besides scalpels and scissors. Like there's a lot of iron stuff you can make that would have instantly killed him.
Guillotine.
How much? I want to just ask Greased. How much? Because you're in medical school, right? how much did the science of this show offend you? Because I remember talking to you about bricks becoming snakes. And how much did this show offend you in terms of scientific?
You know, the thing was, when we saw that scene when Risotto was like still tracking down Bucciarati and everyone else, you know, when we saw that scene with everyone laid on the ground and he's on the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that moment, I was like, what the hell is this guy? You know, there's people like medical instruments coming out of their eyeballs. Like, what the hell is this person stand? And everyone in my comments was like, you're in med school, you can figure it out.
Yeah, it's strange.
That basically told me what I needed to know when they said that. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the other reasons I like Risotto so much, with like the attention to the, you know, the hemoglobin and the iron that, you know, houses the oxygen, and that extra layer of not only using the iron within the body, but also pointing out that if you don't have the iron, you're going to be breathing is going to be very difficult. And you know, the presentation of all that, I just thought that was really cool. Like,
that was really good.
Yeah. Like what a way, like, he doesn't have to mortally wound him. He can just basically make him suffocate from the inside out. It's just I really thought Doppio was gonna go out there. They convinced you that this was basically the moment that would come where he's gone, man. He's done, man. But he just gets away by the skin of his teeth because of that little kid playing football, and look how desperate he was, man. Like, that's what I love about that whole little mini arc that went on, man. About that in the show. Yeah. You want to talk about Cioccolata and Secco now?
Yeah, Cioccolata and Secco. I thought...
for the life of me, I can't say that name.
Yeah, Chocolate. it's the least intimidating name for a character like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comeback, though.
The weird thing with him was that, when I saw him and they did his backstory, because not every antagonist gets a flashback to what their backstory is. Like, not all of Team Execution Squad got anything, right? But he actually got this whole, he likes to operate on people and all that stuff, and then you kind of figure out that he's the guy that killed Gelato and Sorbet, because they were probably really close to finding Diavola's identity and all that stuff. And he was fearsome, man, honestly. Like, I loved his design. I loved his relationship with Secco. I thought that, like, you guys, like, go, like, what do you guys think of it?
Huge fan. Like I said before, I always like psychos, and I always like you're hearing about doctors that butcher people. To me, that just makes me feel good every time I go to the hospital. I'm like, are you gonna butcher me today? Are you gonna cut me up and whatnot? And they're like, no, we're good kinds. So I always like these doctors that are doing it for their personal gains. Obviously, we have a med student here, so I should be careful with what I say.
And all that malpractice.
It's only malpractice if they find out.
I took an oath, man. He probably did too.
Oaths? No, nobody really follows them.
I had to take an oath before I got my white coat, so that man. I mean, the thing is, he went in like already deranged. It wasn't like he got like power hungry once he had like a patient in front of him. It was like from a young age.
Yeah. It's weird, like, the way the abilities manifest, because a lot of people going into the show telling me whatever stand manifests is a representation of a guy's psychology or character. Yeah. And that's not always the case. Like, I don't feel that's always the case for everyone, but for him, that felt not very scientific, but I guess the fact that it was a virus that spreads was very, you can say, scientific in a way. But the relationship between Cioccolata and Secco was the best thing of all. Their dynamic, where he's this little gimp, he's just dressed up in some gimp outfit, which I assumed was a stand suit. You know, like how who's the ice skater? The ice.
White Album guy.
White Album, yeah. We were under the impression that this was his stand was a suit, like a stand that manifested as a suit, which enabled him to, go through, solid objects and kind of do that. But I think most fascinating thing was their relationship. There was almost like a Stockholm sort of. He was a dog feeding him sugar cubes, and then the way that changed when he found out that Cioccolata had been like taken out of the game, and that was a whole interesting arc. I think like it was a good start to bang for that arc. Yeah,
it was the first time where they like those two stands were like meant for each other. Like they had like perfect synergy.
Yeah.
Like if Cioccolata doesn't have someone that's able to make people sync, like once someone figures that out, he's pretty much screwed.
Yeah. Did they say that anyone like he was in charge of disposing the bodies of people who didn't manifest stands because of the arrows, and Secco was the one that actually did manifest the stand? Because I don't know whether they went into it. Someone can remind us that. What was the deal with Secco? He wasn't just a corpse that he was, dissecting. Patient, yeah, he was a patient.
Yeah.
That's it.
It was patient. Like Harley Quinn and Joker type deal.
Yeah, but he probably ended up manifesting a stand, which is why I guess he kept him around. But it felt like there was a more of an intimate relationship between that particular patient. It reminds me of Hannibal. I don't know if you guys have seen Hannibal. Hannibal had that weird relationship with Gary Oldman's character. They actually got to know each other. Like he just got so intimately involved with him. It kind of reminded me much of Hannibal, which I think might even be a reference almost between their relationship. I thought it was interesting. But I thought the way Secco mindset completely changed when he got the message that Cioccolata was done. He was just was probably slandering him. He said, "You're weak, you're shit. You ain't shit. It's like my time to shine," and all that. And then he had his own fight with Bruno towards the end. I didn't realize that Secco was so powerful. Like Secco by himself would assert himself like that, because it reminded me of when Prosciutto died, and that kind of emboldened Pesci to just go fucking ape shit. And that, I love the way that was mirrored in Cioccolata and Secco's fight. Because honestly, Secco was a formidable against Bruno. I didn't think Bruno would have had faced a challenge. Plus, his body was kind of decomposing anyway, so there was that as well.
Yeah, I don't think he would have had any chance at all.
Moin, you brought up White Album, right?
White Album.
Yeah. I'm not surprised of. I'm not surprised that the Beatles references contained in Golden Wind, because the name JoJo itself was actually, at least according from the wiki last time, if I recall correctly, the namesake of JoJo was from the Beatles song Get Back. And given that White Album's stand and its ability is Gently Weeps, which is named after While My Guitar Gently Weeps, which is in the White Album.
Yeah.
As well as the arrow having like a beetle, there's like a beetle emblem on the arrow.
Yeah.
And I kind of figured Hirohiko Araki must have thrown those in there because he must be like a huge Beatles fan or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Heck, even Shigesato Itoi snuck in some Beatles references throughout the Mother franchise. So, hey, the Mother franchise is quite bizarre too. So, wonder if there's a connection there. Probably not. I'm just reading way too into it.
Yeah, you probably are.
Yeah, talking about the references, Cioccolata's stand was called Green Day, right? That was
Green Day.
I was like, how do you feel? Like, that was the one thing I'm not a big fan of Green Day. I heard some of their songs, right? That was just fun.
That makes me chuckle all the time.
Yeah, I think that was meant to be, like, I know obviously these are all references, but it was meant to be, I guess, ironic, because, like Diabolo was saying, even I find Cioccolata repulsive, which actually boosted him up for me. Like, I was really going into that particular, fight, thinking, shit, if Diavolo finds Cioccolata really repulsive and fearsome, then maybe this guy is really, really, really terrifying. And he kind of was, but he got given the most what's it called? at least intimidating sounding names. A Cioccolata, Green Day, or Green Tea is the fucking which are two of the most, harmless things you can think of to call someone, as deranged as Cioccolata. So I thought that was great. Yeah.
What was Secco's name?
Oasis.
Oh,
Not Sanctuary like Crunchyroll calls it. Yeah, thanks Crunchyroll with your. I get it. There's copyright reasons why they changed the names.
Yeah. Oasis. Yeah.
Isn't the only one that was even close to the actual name of it? Didn't they call Metallica Metallic or something?
Metallic. Yeah.
But you know the worst one was Arts and Craft.
Yeah.
That's so lame, man. Somebody at Crunchy probably decided that. It wasn't probably decided by anyone but the Crunchyroll staff or something. Arts and Craft.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. I mean, that whole part was pretty significant because that's also the first time they really started highlighting that there is something wrong with Giorno, right? Like I suspected something just because that when Giorno, when Bucciarati was first found by Giorno, it looked like his flesh was melting off his face, and didn't he see the ghost of him come out of his body for a split second?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like he was barely being held together, right? Like in that body. I'm still wondering how that's the one mystery. I don't know if they explained it or not, but how that even happened. Like, I'm still wondering how that even happened. Like what
it's to do with the ending.
Yeah. I guess the ending. I know that people were explaining to me that because of Mister's actions, it changed the fates or the destinies of these characters. Because if he'd allowed the stone to catch up to Bruno, things might have been different. I guess that makes sense, but it feels like Giorno came and patched his body up. Like, he did do something to Bruno's body.
And he bought time.
Yeah, he bought time. Yeah, I think it's probably as much to do with Giorno's ability and what he was doing. You know what? To be honest, I still don't get Giorno's ability. Like I get some of his abilities. He's broken, man.
Especially Requiem, and that's the most broken stand there is.
Yeah, like, do you remember the fight he had with Bruno in the beginning? And he basically punched Bruno, and Bruno's soul came out of his body. Like,
yeah, they Araki pretty much cut that out. He kind of forgot about that. He just stopped doing whatever that was. He was like, I'm not gonna do that anymore. That's too complicated for me to write.
Yeah, he just writes stuff in, but he rarely writes stuff out. He just keeps on going.
Remember when stands were simple? All he would do is spawn something that would have a lance or something and that would swing around, or build a ship. Not like all these. Oh, okay, now we can stop time. We can skip time.
Yeah.
Probably
somebody posted me a link to an interview he did, and they asked him, how the hell do you decide the powers, the names? And literally, it's like he puts album covers into some sort of online generator almost. The way he described it, names, powers, personalities, favorite foods, into some online generator, and he just generates a personality for the characters. But just to give credit to the guy, it's great. We love it, JoJo. But maybe there's certain aspects of these characters, as far as traditional shonen writing doesn't think too much into. You know what I mean? Like, scientifically, like Hunter x Hunter does, or you know what I mean? Like,
it doesn't need to. It reminds itself about that. Like, if you think about it, if Giorno wasn't that broken, I don't know how they would have beaten Diabolo.
Yeah, at least Gold Experience Requiem did have one entertainment value to it. Was the looping of Diabolo when he's like, I've already seen because I already found a 1 hour view of that constantly looping. I couldn't stop laughing after a while.
Yeah. Did you guys think? Sorry, I know we're getting ahead. Actually, no, we'll talk about it afterwards. I was gonna ask you guys if you guys thought that Giorno manifested that particular ability out of convenience because of Diabolo's power. That it was just manifested to be the specific thing that would just be poignant for that character, but also that it's so contrary, like the antithesis of Diabolo's power about skipping time and preempting the future and all that stuff. The fact that everything returned to zero, which is like a personal hell for a thing. I felt like it manifests when powers manifest, which you know for a fact could be literally anything. But the thing that manifested was the one power, which is basically the cure or the antidote for the enemy's power. I loved it. I love the bizarreness they did with that. But I don't know how you guys felt about that. But
you want to talk about how it worked, first of all?
We talk about yeah, sorry.
Like, so I just thought I'd share this because I thought it was like, this isn't me. I just watched this YouTube video or an explanation because I was really confused as to what happened.
Yeah.
So when you look at Diabolo's stand, the easiest way to explain what his stand does is that this entire part is really about cause and effect. What Diabolo's stand does is that he deletes the cause and the effects is the only thing that it remains, right? The end result. And then Giorno is that he removed the effect and the cause is all that remains. That's why when Diabolo kept punching but nothing happened. And then when Giorno basically killed Diabolo, but he wasn't able to reach the conclusion of him dying, so he just keeps going through that cause over and over, that death over and over.
Yeah.
It's like cause on repeat.
Yeah. I think the one thing that confused me is when King Crimson, goes back to King Crimson, is that when King Crimson first appeared, it was Bruno that was in the fight with King Crimson, and when he went to punch behind a pillar, Bruno saw himself there.
Yeah.
So we were led to believe that he was seeing himself. Was that his soul, or was that himself in the future that you see him? Because that confused me a little bit. What was Bruno seeing when he punched the pillar and Diabolo wasn't there, but he actually saw himself? What was he punching? Like,
I don't know.
When he saw himself? Yeah, this is why I think Ryan's right that he decided not to do certain things after a certain while in the show, right? Like the whole contradictory stuff that was going on, that was happening. So maybe, let's go on to Polnareff. I'm still confusing myself, right?
Yeah, it's a good point to bring up because, to be fair, I watched that ending. I was like, okay. I just accepted it. That's the thing for me. I just accepted it. I didn't even question it because I was like, I have no idea how I could possibly understand what just happened, or what the stands actually do. Like usually I try and apply logic to an anime. I know it makes sense, right? Apply logic to an anime. That's always gonna work. But with this part, especially like part 2, part 3, part 4, I thought, you know what? For the most part, it all makes sense. There are a few things that are like, this is so absolutely pointless that I don't understand why you would have a stand like that. For example, the one alien thing with the antenna. Well, like only like one person can stay or something. I'm like, why would you have that?
Yeah.
But
like, it all makes sense. Except this part. This part, there was just some aspects where I was like, ooh, I don't know.
Here's the issue with people when they criticize for people wanting to ground everything. I remember when I did Hunter x Hunter, right? I complained that Togashi kept over-explaining things with walls of text, right? And he kept over-explaining the abilities to the point where it just got in the way. And then when you go to something like JoJo, right, where they don't explain it enough and then you use it as a criticism, people say, oh, well, you complained about exposition, too much exposition before. But it's not wrong to want to desire to understand how things work, right, within the rules of an anime. And when some things contradict themselves, you think something's a bit of a stretch, and then we have to just basically resign ourselves to going, oh, but it's JoJo. We don't really need it. We don't really watch it for that. You know what I mean? I think even a base level of, I think keeping it simple is the best, like, route to go now moving forward for like stands and that kind of thing, because I felt like you kind of gave yourself a lot to work with when you're creating stands that communicate with you, are autonomous, work autonomously of you, and then Araki basically gave himself such a huge chore to have to explain it, to the point where he's literally writing characters out. He was maybe having to cut things out, contradict himself. You know what I mean? Like, keep it simple, man. I think, in my opinion.
I mean, like in my comments when they first showed Diabolo's stand, I had people congratulating me that I actually understood some of it. I was like, if you have people congratulating you on this,
yeah.
I was like, wow, you never understood this. I was like, why was I not supposed to?
Yeah, I can get you there more. I think you might like part 6 in that sense. Is the stands are pretty simple until the end. There's a kind of crazy stand events, but like Jolene, she probably has like one of the most simplest non-OP stands. It's pretty basic.
Yeah, that's
just easy to get. So it's a kind of a fresh breath of air almost from all this, stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, this particular part relied on its like really good pacing, and there was a fight almost every episode. I don't think there was a single episode where there wasn't a confrontation between an enemy stand, and something. There was no fat in it. It was all just breakneck speed, confrontation. So it's hard to criticize it when it's going at that kind of pace. But it's when you slow down a little bit and you try to think about it, which is where this kind of happens. But yeah, Ryan, you're right. You're saying what Zess told me about Jolene's like ability is very simple, easy to understand.
Yeah, I think you can kind of contrast with part 5, part 6. Part 5 is like constant fights and some like the best fights, and it kind of slows down. Part 6 a little bit, but I kind of feel like it also improves in some places in part 6. Like part 5, the fights are kind of like the main focus almost. Just the constant battling. Yeah.
Shall we talk about Polnareff in the room?
Yeah.
So my boy returned. He returned. The main character of part 3.
Oh.
And I liked the real main character of part 3 a lot, but he was the true main character of part 3.
Hold on.
No,
like, I haven't heard the last 2 minutes of the conversation because I just couldn't hear anything.
What were we talking about?
stands, how difficult they are, technical.
Yeah. Fuck, I forgot, man. Shall we just talk about Polnareff? Let's talk about Polnareff. Greece. Well, how do you feel they handled him? I think I like the way they handled him. But you go first.
Okay.
Sorry, I agree. Is Greece there? I want
technical difficulties. Hold on.
No worries.
Right.
You got time on your...
Yeah, right. What do you think of the way they treat Polnareff? I felt as though he felt very different. Not physically, obviously he's in a wheelchair, but he felt just very weathered, seasoned, broken. You know what I mean? Like the way they dealt him. It was really tragic seeing him like that. What did you think when you read that in the manga the first time or watching it?
Well, the first thing is you're excited to see him, but I kind of feel like you feel very bad for him, but you also gain a lot of respect for him as a character because he gets fucked up, he just works his way up, and he's just stuck in this awful situation where he can't do anything. He's just grinding to find any little information.
Yeah.
And then he's just spending all these years just to get to this one point, and then basically just sacrifice his life in that one instant just to take out the RO.
It was so isolating. Yeah, I feel bad for him. He's so isolated.
You want to see more of him, but it kind of makes sense that he gets taken out that early.
Yeah.
Almost like that. Yeah.
I mean, it was bad enough that he was basically disabled because of his encounter with Diavolo the first time. Yeah. But to be that vulnerable and have Diavolo literally right there, the first time Diavolo reveals himself in his true form is that episode, right in front of he comes out of the shadows and Polnareff's there, and you're like, fuck, I'm stuck here in a wheelchair. And I'm seeing this bed end again. It's like it feels so hopeless for that guy. But I like his new look as well. What do you think of his new look? I like his new design. That little eye mask he has on the side.
He's styling.
He's styling, man.
He looks like a stand.
He looks like
What?
He looks like a stand.
Stand.
He's with metal legs and shit.
Yeah.
I do find it weird though that like in part 2 we had the German guy with like all these epic technologies on his body, and now in like part 5 where time has advanced, it's like
Yeah, it's true.
no prosthetics at all. That's weird. Strong hand was in his pocket. Exactly. Yeah. And where's all that money from? Where's all that money the Speedwagon Foundation gives everyone when they're traveling abroad? You know, he could have afforded it, like, you know, prosthetics and all this stuff. Like where they treated him, like it was like the NHS, man. They just shoved him out the door, man. Just gave him a wheelchair, shoved him out the door.
Diablo had that lock and all that high-tech medical gear, apparently.
Yeah. So weird. I remember that. But you know what was the most tragic thing about that is the tragedy of not only him but Chariot Requiem. Chariot Requiem became this almost tragic. You know, like he looked like a manifestation of depression. He just walking away trying to protect the arrow, and he was just made of ooze, right, like a black oil substance, and he wasn't really that powerful. He was just there to protect the arrow, you know, no matter what. And I felt like it was such a tragic, everything about the turtle stuff, you know, being resigned to a turtle's body, your chariot basically dying, like just being taken out, you're stuck in a wheelchair, you know, I mean, it's so tragic. Like Araki must have been in a stupor, like a depressed stupor or some shit when he wrote that. Yeah, Prince, sorry.
Well, alright, I'll say this. I like Polnareff more in part 3, but I like how he was handled in part 5 a lot. I thought that, you know, as you kind of touched on earlier, he's kind of like this broken person, and it makes sense, you know, considering that, you know, they've had such a big victory, you know, while still losing people against Dio, and then for him to be like, yeah, you know what, I can take something, I can take this threat out on my own, and then just get absolutely destroyed after having gone through everything with Dio. You know, personally, I think I'd be broken too, mentally.
Yeah.
So,
One thing, one thing that annoyed me though is the fact that not only have we seen Jotaro, I'm not saying he was there in Rome, but we've seen Koichi, we've seen Jotaro. Somebody, when I reacted to that moment and I asked, like, where's Polnareff's backup? You know what I mean? Like, this is the Speedwagon Foundation that sent him. And then I saw in the flashback that Diavolo, the boss, was saying, oh, the media, the politics have cornered me. But someone thought that Diavolo was saying, oh, I've basically controlled the media, I control the police, I control the politicians. That's not what he said. So then it comes back to the question, why didn't, what's his name, Polnareff communicate with Jotaro, communicate with his mans, you know what I mean? Backup. Why didn't he get backup after the first encounter? Which I've always wondered. Why was he doing it alone and communicating to Giorno's group? You know, he could have done the same thing with Jotaro and everyone. So I was wondering where his mans were, man, where the Crusaders were.
100% agree with you. Yeah. Jotaro should have been there, especially considering that he's already got experience against someone who can manipulate time in a certain manner.
Yeah.
So, like, he would have been, in my opinion, the perfect person to call. Because he's got experience, he's an experienced fighter as well, and he's been on the brink of death multiple times, so it's not like he exactly fears it. So, he would be, like, the first person I would call in his shoes.
Yeah.
He's got.
But you know what's funny? Yeah. Do you remember in part 4 when Jotaro was struggling with a rat? Like, a rat that had a stand, right? In part 4. He was struggling with a rat. And then people told me, look, Jotaro hasn't trained, fam. Jotaro hasn't trained his ability to stop time, so he can only do it for a few seconds. I feel like Jotaro, like, this is off topic, but Jotaro is slacking so bad, man, like, in this particular franchise where you know, he would have been great to bring on, but he probably hasn't like trained his hand power to do it, right? So it was a sure bet for me that send Jotaro and send everyone who's still, you know, on side for this foundation and has stand powers, but you know, Polnareff was doing it alone, man, and he got such a you know, he's obscure now. He's a turtle now. He's a turtle, so it's like. It was kind of tragic, but I like that. I don't usually like the happy ending, everyone gets to ride off in the sunset type of thing. It's kind of a shame, though, that they did that with Polnareff, because he was one of the mainstays of Black Part 3.
Well, his end is kind of pathetic, but also it's kind of nice to think about him just sitting there advising Giorno and the gang. Like,
yeah. At least he's not dead.
Yeah, better than dead.
Yeah.
Well, it would have been interesting as well how, just to bring it back to the point that we just made, how a time stop would have gone versus a time skip. That would have been quite interesting to see how that would have been written.
You would have seen the time skip coming, and you would have skipped the action of the time stopping.
But if but if the time is stopped before he skips it, then he wouldn't be able to see the action. I don't know.
He'll see the stoppage coming, right?
Yeah.
How can you see time? But how can you see a time stop coming when the time is stopped?
Yeah. Do you think Did you think they played enough with the time skipping stuff, or do you think it was just enough?
I would have gone all out. I'll be honest. I would have gone all out. Like I would have done time skip every 5 seconds to the point where you wouldn't know what day it is. Like suddenly they just skip months, and they're like, "Wait, why are we 50 years old? We were like 10 years old like 5 minutes ago. What happened?" That's what I would have done. I would have gone to the maximum.
Do you remember that arc where everyone was aging? What was it? Everyone was aging. Do you remember that? They could have played with that, honestly. Like, we don't know what the limitations of King Crimson is anyway. Like, how far, you know, like how Abakio's power can basically rewind events, right? Like, for like years, like decades, sorry, almost. So what's the limitation of King Crimson? Can he only do like 15 seconds, 20 seconds? Like, we never really got into it. It wasn't the fact that nobody understood how it worked. It's just we didn't have it explained or practiced. There was not enough, like, you know, practice of it to understand what the limitations were. So we would just see skips, you know, in that last arc where we would just notice it visually on screen. Oh shit, King Crimson used his power. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. So
I think they did say it was like 10 seconds.
10 seconds, did they? 10 seconds.
The actual limitation of how long it lasted was said.
Yeah. I think time just skipped there.
That's all I've been hearing time skips right now.
He just skipped all the Diabolo slander there, so no one heard it. Yeah. We can talk about Golden Finale now, because that all came on from that was all Rome basically. They're still in Rome, right? When the body switch and stuff. What did you think of that? At the moment that happened.
That was the weakest part of the series, in my honest opinion. I usually like body switching or body changing kind of things, but I felt like the way at the point it was done, like if it was done either earlier or not later, just earlier. If it was done earlier, it would have been much better. But because of the timing, I felt like the timing was just all over the place, and I just felt like it's kind of like a breather, and it was just kind of comedic at that point, where we really didn't need to have these comedic scenes, where I felt like the tension was rising and rising and rising, and then suddenly the tension just dipped.
Sorry. No, you go on.
I was not a biggest fan of it. It's definitely one of the weaker parts for me. There's the only real positive to it that I could see is that adding like the tension of where's Diablo, what body is he in, and it kind of played off into that Nuance's death, but like it didn't really do much else beside that, and even that I didn't think they executed it as well as it could have been done, because there wasn't really much of a point of it besides putting that fear of where is he, but it didn't really it didn't affect me as much as it could have.
Yeah.
I respected it. I respected that scenario because you'd assume that, oh, this will be another showdown like Dio's World, and it will all be on Diavolo versus everyone, and you kind of expect that going in. And actually, I think you want that going in, considering Diavolo only really shows up properly towards the end, right? But then Araki decides, you know what would be something bizarre and ludicrous to do right now? And let's just make it about this arrow, which no one understands, and let's show something about this. And that basically turned everything upside down. It ruined it for Diavolo. Diavolo was like a bumbling idiot. He was like, he could barely even hold the arrow in his goddamn hand because, like, he didn't understand. He was trying to figure it out in that last moment, and bodies were swapped, and people were scrambling to do the best they could and what they could. I respect that they did that. I just felt that it took away from a lot of the stakes that had been built up. With that, so many people had died, and this was all about finding out his Diavolo and taking him down, and the emotional stakes just disappeared because this arrow became the enemy. Basically, the final villain was the arrow almost, this inanimate object that everyone was trying to understand.
It was less of a final fight, more of a race to the arrow.
Yeah.
Whoever gets that automatically wins.
I respect it, but I don't think it just kind of, the payoff didn't feel, as satisfying as I would have hoped, Yeah,
I don't think it was bad or anything. It's just like, definitely could have had a better payoff for all that stuff. Definitely.
And I think
what would happen if you got it. Like, he was already pretty busted. Like, what the hell could they possibly do to make him even, like, more impossible?
Skip time forever.
Something even more overpowered than... Yeah.
I mean, Kira, like, I'm not gonna lie, it didn't completely come out of nowhere. If you look at what Kira did, right? He did time travel, right? Like in part 4 when he had the arrow, didn't he? He was able to get that ability, that his desires basically manifested, right, with the arrow, and he was able to go back in time, like when that kid found out about him, that little kid. So it felt like an organic version of that, but I feel like the explanations that came out in that particular finale was some of the most weird and stretched. Like we brought the light of the soul. Like he was figuring everything out about the arrow. How does this arrow work? Where is Requiem going? Which way is he walking in? Oh, there's a light behind everyone's head, and it casts a shadow of the soul. I'm like, come on, man! Like, even that's a stretch even for me. Could you not come out with something more organic than that? And he figured it out on the spot. Like, this is something that was figured out by Diavolo, and he knew more about the arrow at that point than anyone, and he's still like, it's falling through his hands, and I don't. Unless this gets explained more, because people keep telling me that every subsequent part explains something in the previous part. So the arrows in part 4 was an explanation of something that happened in part 3. So if something happened in part 5, hopefully something gets explained in part 6 about how this thing works. What about you, Reese? Like, what do you think?
About like just how they're utilizing it.
That whole mess of a scenario. Like, I loved it. It was exciting, but this whole mess of a scenario, body switching, the arrow, chariot requiem, people stabbing themselves. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, that was something that shadow part was probably the part I was like, all right, I'm not gonna even pretend to try to explain this so I don't get eviscerated by my comments. But yeah, I just thought that whole scenario at the end was more of like the only way. Like, it felt like another one of those writer's blocks that Araki might have had, where he was like, all right, like, the way I've written Diavolo, it just doesn't seem like the heroes have any way of stopping him. Yeah. So I have to like pull things up. That's why the body swapping happened. That's why the arrow became the main focus all of a sudden, and that's why we got a whole new stand for him, which really like was unnecessary, like in the grand scheme of things, right?
Yeah.
Like that's why I was like, I don't know what's going on, and that's why, like, I mean, we'll talk about the ending, but that also threw me for a loop. Like the main complaint I had about the very end was the pacing And the way, like, there were parts that I would have enjoyed, but not at the end.
Yeah.
Just a lot of introductions to these things.
I don't know why like I don't know why I'm more forgiving of all the stuff that I felt wasn't right. Like I wasn't this forgiving of Stardust Crusaders in the early days where I felt like it was plodding and some decisions really kind of irked me. So I wasn't that forgiving. I don't know why for this part where as much as I know for a fact that these things could have been done more elegantly, I just didn't feel like it killed it too much for me. It was absurd. And I felt like it was a chaos. It was basically just chaos, that whole finale, the way that the focus was shifted off so many people. Doppio, okay, whose body is Diabolo in? Oh shit, Diabolo is on the Arrow now. Now it's on Chariot Requiem, and now it's back on the Arrow. Now it's on Journo, and I felt it was so rapid that it didn't give you a chance to really breathe and linger on things that happened. So it really undercut from Narancha's death. It undercut from little moments with Doppio. I think everything that was happening with Bruno got this one glorious moment, right? And I felt that was a nice conclusion to this whole character's arc. But I felt like not everyone kind of got that in there. Trish as well. I know Ryan, Trish is the really favorite character of yours. I thought Trish was really good, like Mister, right? Mister was in her body, and she actually was emoted and was more animated than she ever was throughout the show. You know what I mean? She had very expressive.
Yeah, it's interesting how that worked.
Yeah, not naturally, honestly, but
she became almost a new character. I wouldn't mind seeing Trish with that personality firing bullets, right? Like Sex Pistols. I feel like she became a whole unique character in her own right when that all happened. Like she became a third person, not Mister, not Trish, but a whole different character.
I kind of felt like both Mista and Trish kind of both took a little bit more of their personalities into each other. Like Trish became more outspoken, and I feel like not as much, but Mista kind of settled down almost a little bit.
Yeah.
So not nearly as much, but to a degree.
Yeah.
You kind of see it happening.
By the time this particular ending scenario arc hit, was there any character that you were really rooting for, like that you really thought stuck out and like I actually care like what's going on right now, and was there anyone there? Because I wasn't really too invested in Journo because I feel like Journo, we all knew who Journo was from the moment this series started. He's that guy that just basically takes the limelight right at the end when everyone's sacrificed themselves or taken the damage. You know what I mean? Like the focus was in them, then Journo comes in. But I felt like there was not one really singular focus on anyone for like a payoff in what was going on, like in that last bit, like scenario.
It kind of felt like no one really could have done anything else besides Journo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like that's the changed the outcome. Everyone else is kind of there, and you're just waiting to see what Journo was going to do.
Yeah. What did you?
Just going alongside that, one of the reasons why I don't think this part is as like good as the other parts that every part except part one for me is because of that reason where at the end I wasn't like, oh god, I really hope nothing happens to X person or X person,
Yeah.
I just never had that feeling.
I see. This is why, like, it's weird that we actually have criticisms, but I still like this part. Like, I still, for overall, just feel that this is one of the stronger parts. Like, I'm not trying to say that I'm not considering everything that happened with the finale, but I don't want to judge the whole show just on what was going on in the finale. And obviously, there's the end that we can talk about, but I feel like. I think we can really only talk about this if we talk about how they handle the end, the whole stone thing, the thematics, right? Reinforcing what the theme of this show was rather than giving people like a definitive, this is what happens to this person, this is what happens to that person. Like, I think it would be better to talk about that because that ending was trying to reinforce the themes of what was going on and what we're supposed to get out of what this whole sacrifice and this journey was. But I never felt like it gave a great cap off to a story, you know what I mean? Like resolution and what was going on. Things just happened, and then we moved past it, you know what I mean, without really questioning what happened.
Well, when that part was going on, I was like, oh shit, this feels like an OVA that would air after the series ends.
Yeah.
And everyone got on me for saying that.
It absolutely feels like that. Like in the manga too, it felt like, what is this filler? Like it does have a good conclusion to it, but I much would have rather just seen what is going on after all that stuff happened than getting all that stuff.
I don't know who it was that tweeted, one of you, I think it was one of you guys or someone else, but they said that they wish that there had been more clues to the Stones, the Rolling Stones stuff. At least maybe even earlier on in the series, where you could have shown a little bit of it, like Mister's going after this guy with Rolling Stones, but they never continue it. Then you're wondering what's going on, and then right at the end they explain it. It would have made more sense to do it instead of just tack it onto the end and go, okay, this is the themes of the show. Every stone has a sculptor in it, already. Someone just has to chip away at and find it almost. And I appreciate that. I appreciate what they did there. But it just felt like we needed more clues to it happening. What do you feel, Prince?
Honestly, to me, the ending just feels a little rushed. It feels like the journey, like usually where you have like the normal arc of like a story. To me, it feels like you're on a roller coaster almost, and it's going up, it's going up, it's going up, it's going up, and then just suddenly it just drops, and then you're at the end. It's like, okay, so we had all this ride with all this journey, and then suddenly it's just 50 miles per hour, it just goes down, and it's over before you even know what happened. And that's kind of what I felt like. I wish, not to say I wish it was more dragged out, but I wish the pacing that we had throughout the whole show, which was, quite fast, but also taking its time with certain things, I wish that applied more towards the ending, where I felt like it was a little bit rushed in certain aspects. I felt like, we're just kind of going all over the place right now. And to me, it just ruins the ending. I just feel like the ending, honestly, is probably the weakest part of the show. As crazy as that seems.
Yeah. You know what's funny is that Araki seems to have lots of ideas for this part, but he didn't know how to put them all in. Like, he wanted to put loads of stuff in, but he wasn't able to realize them. Somebody told me when I was saying stuff about the Mister stuff and the Stone stuff, they go, oh, but don't you realize Mister's the reason why everyone dies because he blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, fair enough, but what does that mean? Like, what does that even mean for the ending of the show? He's still alive. Journo's now taken over. Like, what does that mean? Like, what am I supposed to feel? Like, when you tell me that Mister's the reason everyone died, like when the story's trying to tell you that, no matter what their fates were, they kept putting their lives on the line, right, to do that. It's such a jumble of tonally themes, messages, making you feel like, oh shit, Mister's the reason. I'm like, what am I supposed to feel when this show ends? And I was like, I need more. I just need more. Like, I'd be happy if there was just a little bit more. So that's what I felt.
Well, when I said that it felt like an OVA, I posed the question: if you took out that part, like, what would you be missing, right?
Yep.
Nothing.
Not much.
Not much. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little extra explanation. Like, what most people seem to really enjoy about that bit was that, I guess, the stone stand, if you touch it, basically it gives you a peaceful way of dying without suffering, right?
Yeah.
So the point of the whole, the thematic relevance of it is that you'd rather confront fate head on, which is like the opposite of what Diabolo does, right?
Yeah.
It's just to further add on to that motif that they've been going with the whole time.
Yeah.
And the point was that, he was supposed to die at that one point if the stone was to be believed, but since Giorno saved him and the journey continued, more people died. That's the whole point of it. But I was like, they're dead anyway. I didn't need to know about this Rolling Stone thing in the context of the whole series. Like, that's why I was like, if this was an additional episode, I would have enjoyed it. Like, it would have been cool to see. It's another Tan user. It's adding on to the motif, and it makes sense. But don't put it at the very end where all of a sudden, pacing, when it's like winding down, all of a sudden it's like, okay, now they're all of a sudden in a restaurant. Like, they even entire part with them sitting around the corner, and then like a bird flew by, and we went back to Diabolo, and I was like, what the hell's going on?
Somebody tried to explain it. Like, I kept questioning throughout the show, like, there's so much mortal injury in this show. Everyone's taking so much mortal damage, but nothing's really happening. And then people use the superficial excuse, but JoJo's always had that, right? And that's fair enough. I can take that reason. But then somebody said, because of what Mister did, none of them were able to die until a certain point, right? Until their fate, like their fate caught up to them, right? So up until then, none of them could have died, no matter what happened to them. It's a stretch, you know what I mean?
That's a bunch of bull. It's just the JoJo being over exaggerating. It's nothing but that.
That happens, the headcanon and all that. You know what I mean? Headcanon.
Honestly, the ending should have been like an OVA, like Rohan's. Just, have that as a bridge between part 5 and part 6, and we'd be good.
Have that, yeah. I mean, if Rohan can get one, and it was incomplete. They didn't really even adapt all of the stories, if I remember correctly, for Rohan. But Fugo, I mean, how many OVAs do you think would they need to adapt those books?
I'd be like 4 or 5.
Yeah, I gotta think back on how long that was.
Yeah.
It would definitely take a couple. You need a couple episodes worth, probably, for sure. Because there's at least like 4 or 5 fights in that.
Damn, there's actually fights still. Damn.
Yeah, Fugo, not really much of a spoiler. Fugo basically has some guys that he meets up with and goes around fighting this. Do you mind if I do like how it starts off and like what the plot is? What Fugo's. So basically, Fugo he meets back up with Nista and Giorno at the very beginning. This is after like Nista and Giorno running the gang now, and basically they've lost all trust in him. So Fugo's basically sent off on a mission to take out this last group that was loyal to Diablo. So there's this group of like 4 guys. So Fugo gets his like 2 guys to work with him, and he's going off trying to take out these last like pieces of Diablo's group.
Oh wow, that'd be great. That'd be great to see, honestly.
Yeah.
Plus, a lot of development for that character, or redemption almost. It'd be good redemption for that character.
Yeah, it really is like the Fugo redemption arc.
I mean, they have to at this point, right? If people are unhappy after watching that anime, I guess the Davi Pro might have it in the back of their heads, right? Like, we really need to give this guy a more definitive conclusion and a redemption, maybe. So hopefully we get that, yeah. What do you guys think of the death loop? We can talk about the death loop with Diavolo, right? That made sense to me, like overall, generally. When that episode happened, I was still wondering. Yeah,
I never thought about that. I'm pretty sure it's not like actually like what was happening. But you remember at the very end, you have, they talk about that guy who ended up being the stone user, and that dad had come up to Bucciarati and asked him to murder this guy basically because his daughter was killed, like driven to suicide.
Yeah.
But when we get the explanation, they're talking about how she was going to die of a disease and that she basically killed herself to save her dad.
Yeah.
So he used organs. I was wondering if Diavolo represented like that organ harvest for when he was on the autopsy table.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was a parallel to that like daughter getting killed, and they were talking about the liver is like it's a good liver.
Yeah.
And it's I was wondering if it was a parallel to that at all.
Do you think her dad didn't get the organ? He got the organ, or you mean just a general parallel to it?
Just almost like Diavolo was reliving other people's deaths, almost.
Yeah, I mean, they're very specific. Run over by a car, him being girl table. Yeah, maybe, possibly. Yeah. All the people
even the homeless guy, him getting shanked was part of the loop. He was actually killed by Giorno. He wasn't killed by the homeless guy.
Yeah. See, it's still, I know what people explain it as his death loop. It returns to zero, goes again, returns to zero, goes again. Is he physically, he's not physically feeling this. Like, his body's not feeling it. His consciousness is just stuck in a death loop of, he doesn't realize he's dead. He's just constantly reliving, like, this is some like quantum like level
Well,
shit. Like
yeah.
But
I
when
think
you think of all the demises of the villains, like, does he really deserve that? Or like, that's like the worst death by far. Like,
yeah.
Oh, I would say
mean,
part
he
2 had it equally bad. Where the villain didn't deserve that in part 2.
Yeah, like he can't erase it. Like he's just constantly, like you say, cause and effect, right? He's
he erased that possibility of death for him. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And they show how like it completely just tears him apart because he's screaming at a little girl coming up to him.
Yeah.
Like it's just the worst possible end for anyone. It's not an end even.
Yeah, but you know the worst thing about the ending is the fact that this is what annoys me about part 3. Jotaro develops this power that he has, the time stopping stuff, right at the end of Stardust Crusaders. Journal also develops this super crazy good power right at the end of the series, and then the series finishes. We never see what this power holds for the future. So Jotaro's basically wasted his potential not developing his power, right? His ability to stop time. Now, I don't know much about part 6, but now that Journal's developed this power, you want to see to explain it, you want to see what the application of this power is so that we maybe get a better understanding. But we're always left on a mystery, like this crazy mystery powers that are developed, and we never see it again. And then the next season comes, and I think, like you say, he might have taken criticism on board and gave Jolene, the protagonist, a more simple, down-to-earth, grounded power, which isn't OP. You know what I mean? So that's my one criticism, that we see this power once and we never see it again.
Yeah, it would be nice to see continuation.
Yeah.
But, just with, like, part 6, you can't really do that because you got Giorno running a gang in Italy, then part 6 takes place in America, so...
Can you imagine, like, Giorno with that end game stand ability, like, going against Dio? Like, Dio would be stuck in a time, like, he would be stuck in a loop where he's constantly trying to stop time, but time isn't stopping because he erases that effect.
Yeah.
It's like the ultimate broken, like, I look at it as the ultimate defensive stand. A lot of people would just tell me it's the ultimate stand, but...
Yeah, I would go that far and say it is the ultimate.
It just doesn't lend itself to continuation.
But you know what? One thing people say about JoJo is, JoJo's unique because it's not how powerful the stand is, it's how they're used, right? How you use the ability of the stand. But Jono throws that out the roof. If he started and ended that show with the same ability, we'd know what was possible and what wasn't possible with him, right? But he was just like, I'll use this power. Okay, now throw that in the bin. I'm going to use this power. Throw that in the bin. They were all specific to the particular scenarios, and they all came out of inorganic. They were just felt like contrived, right? And then right at the end, they go, forget my ability for life, right? Now let's get this new power where I bring everything back to zero. So it was created specifically for the scenario rather than him using that one power he's had since the beginning for in unique way, you know what I mean? He developed it, he did it on Diabolo, bang, at the end, you know what I mean? So that kind of annoyed me about Giorno particularly. So.
Say what you want about the whole snake in a brick. It made sense thematically. It made sense with his powers, and at the time... well, when I say it made sense, not scientifically, of course, but... The ending, just like, about that. Let's just throw that all away.
You know what I would have liked is, when Spice Girl when Trish manifested Spice Girl on the plane, Spice Girl was actually calming her down and leading the way, right? You can do this, you do this way, that way. Because Trish wasn't familiar. This was the first time she manifested Spice Girl, or rather, like, the full-blown form of it. Now, when that happened to Giorno, this evolution happened, it was like Giorno wasn't familiar with what was going on, but I'm sure his stand probably was able to enact his desires. I thought there's such a big contradiction there where if you're going to have a broken, crazy power, then let the stand do it. Don't have Giorno literally in 5 seconds able to explain everything that's happening with my power, and I know how to use it, and I know what's going on.
Well, Giorno didn't know how what happened. He just knew that.
Yeah.
All he knew was that Diablo was done. He didn't know really what happened because he was kind of unconscious that whole time.
Yeah, but Jenna was trying to explain about what was going on, right? He's the one that gave the explanation about it returns everything. Like I think he was standing.
It was the stand.
That was him talking. He was standing against a railing and he was talking to somebody. I think this is what happens. And
yeah, but I don't think even when he was saying that, he didn't really understand the full extent of it. Like he wouldn't be able to explain exactly what it does. I think he just knew that Dion was kind of gone, and
he's like, I don't think he's coming back. That's all he said.
He's not coming back.
Like I'm sure he understood it to an extent, but he doesn't know exactly how it works in full.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if Giorno's stand just turned on everyone?
Yeah, you gotta imagine. Yeah, if it's that strong, why can't it just say "fuck you, Giorno, I'm out of here"?
Yeah. You know when Polnareff stabbed himself, stabbed with the Chariot, he was separated, right, from his stand at that point, right?
Yeah.
Like he did say he was separated, and that wasn't the case for Journo, right? Journo still has his stand.
Yeah.
Like Yeah. So
because he's chosen or whatever, how it works.
Yeah.
It's odd.
Yeah.
Let's just give our overall thoughts then. Like where you put it in regards to other parts and why.
Okay.
Well, personally, I think. If I had to rate them, I like Part 3 because of the characters a lot. So Part 3 is number 1, Part 2 number 2, Part 4 number 3, Part 5 number 4, and Part 1 number 6. 6? Shouldn't it be Part 5? Did I miss something? Regardless, that's the order. Part 5 to me it's just behind Part 1. I liked it a lot, but because the ending felt so weird, that kind of just dropped it for me. And an ending to a thing is always more important than everything, in my opinion. Like, a show can never be great unless it has a great ending.
What is it? Oh yeah, I remember you saying that. You said if One Piece ends rubbish, you'll think that One Piece is not good.
Yeah, for example, One Piece, my favorite manga. If that has a bad ending, I'd drop it immediately from like a 9.5 to a 2.
Wow, that's harsh.
For me, the ending is more important than anything, because otherwise I've wasted my time.
Yeah, you gotta close it strong, right? Like, yeah, I see what you're saying. It has to have been worth it. Like you say, the journey has to have been worth that finale. So I know some people who think like that. So it's fair.
That's a little extreme for my taste.
Yeah, it's maybe a little extreme for me as well.
I'll say this:
I understand.
I have been burned out a lot by like stuff like Naruto. Back when I really enjoyed it, and then I was like, why did I even enjoy this show? Bleach, Bleach I didn't enjoy that much, but like the ending was just like, yeah, okay, no. Then other shows as well. There's like Toriko. Used to be like top 5 for me. The ending was hype, but like they basically just skipped 4 arcs. So like a lot of things like that to me. Once the ending is bad, the whole show just drops. Which is why like One Piece, Detective Conan, or Hajime no Ippo, if those have bad endings, I will have wasted decades of my time. Same as Berserk.
Yeah.
Oh, there's also Berserk. Let's hope that doesn't have a bad ending.
It's still ongoing, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, Berserk's still going.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones is like a perfect example of a show that used to be like a 9 or 9.5 out of 10, and then like once season 5 and 6 and 7 and 8.
That was going down for a few seasons.
Yeah, it was trash for years.
What about your rankings, Reese? Because I actually wanted to talk about Reese's rankings. I'm actually maybe more in agreement with you now that we've had this conversation. not entirely in agreement, but a little bit. Just a little bit.
You're ready to jump on me.
Nah, that's true.
Yeah, me and Prince have pretty similar rankings. The only thing is that I like Part 2 the best. Part 2 was my favorite just because Joseph was I just thought that entire part was just I just had so much fun watching it. I don't care how like critical it was, but I had the most fun watching part 2.
Yeah.
Part 3 and 4 are equal for me, just because for part 3 I like the cast more, and part 4 I just like the mystery of finding this murderer that whole time as a like carrot on a stick to keep the whole process going. And I just thought that was a really good villain.
Yeah.
And then that's when I have part 5. Part 5, I didn't really have any attachment too much to the main characters as much as I did the other parts. Diabolo was interesting. I thought it would be a similar hook to part 4 because of the whole, this is a mystery. We're trying to figure out who the big bad is. But I've thought that would have been more impactful if it would have been like someone we hadn't realized was the villain the whole time type of thing.
Yeah.
So it didn't really, it didn't do that, and it didn't stick the landing completely. I don't really think that the ending was bad for me personally. I still had fun with it.
Yeah.
But the other parts were just stronger. And part 1, I just don't like part 1.
You don't like 1. So
not much at all. Part 1, like when I was introduced to JoJo and I was watching part 1, I was like, why am I watching this?
I think 1 gets a lot of hate. Unnecessary, but I understand why. When you got better parts come out, it's not that you hate it. It's just the least of your favorites.
It was interesting it had interesting parts, but like I was like, all right, they're throwing dogs in the ovens. This Dio dude is just like extreme.
That's when I got hooked, when the dog was thrown in the oven.
Ryan, what about yours? What's your order rankings?
I'm in an interesting place since I've read the manga, and there's a lot of things in the manga I like more. But I guess I'll kind of just partner both of them up and rate them as wholes. So part 5 is my favorite part, for sure.
Oh, wow.
And it is. Just, I don't really care as much about the ending as a great ending can be good, but I enjoyed like the journey more than any other part by far. And I love the supporting cast, even if Giorno and some other guys don't get as much development as you'd like.
Yeah.
But I
that's fair.
Reading that in the manga, I just had so much fun with it. And even if I did think they didn't adapt something so well, I still had a lot of fun with it. So then second, part 4.
Yeah.
That's mainly because I love Kira and Rohan as characters. Rohan especially, like he's top. He's one of the best in the whole series by far. So he just carries that whole part for me, honestly.
Yeah.
Then 2, I think it's self-explanatory. Probably people like that part. Then 1, then 3 is my least favorite probably.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
You're hurting me on a personal level right now.
I'll be honest, like 3 has one of the best endings, but the journey, I can barely remember anything about it. I just remember being bored watching most of it. I only remember few key parts. I should probably rewatch it one day, but I watched it years ago. I was honestly bored until the final 15 episodes, besides a few parts.
I feel insulted on a personal level.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't care about Abdul or Kakyoin.
Best character. What?
Yeah, even because it's weird because I'm opposite to you. I'll just give them my numbers right quickly. Mine's 3, 5, 2, 1, 4. That's how I rank them now. And this is after this conversation.
Is that favorite to least favorite?
Favorite to least favorite, yeah. So
okay.
Now before 3 and 5 were actually close, really close together, but after this conversation and us just talking about it, and Prince's comments being that I'm not fully with you that an ending can ruin a show, like just a whole show, like judging 600 episodes based on the last 2. But I do agree that when you don't finish those threads, it can feel kind of unfulfilling and unsatisfying. So 3, I just love 3. Maybe it's nostalgia, but I felt like compared to the way 5 handled its things, it's a very simple, basic road trip journey. And that finale, the last 4, 5, 6 episodes were really good. I think 5 was basically so much better than 3 in the beginning, the pacing, all that stuff. But I think it owes a lot. It actually owes a lot to 3 as well, which is the only reason why I feel I put it down a bit. 2 because it's Joseph and I love it, but it's gone down a little bit because when you go back to that, it's not that memorable. There's not that many memorable moments apart from Joseph. And
Lisa.
One because I feel like 1 gets shit on, but it's such a good mythology. Like it's a great thing to create the mythology. 4 because I like Kira, but Kira is not enough for it to carry a Joestar I didn't like. And it all went downhill on the Thursday, the 9th or Thursday, the 6th arc happened, where that guy who creates origami, you know, that guy who folds the paper. Everything that happened in that particular arc onwards till the end, I was kind of a bit down on. So that's the reason why 4, I feel, you know, it's there at the bottom. So it's actually very different to you, Ryan, because you have 4 and 5 at the top, actually.
Yeah, I can.
At the bottom end,
Yeah, I can understand your points. Like honestly, since I like all the parts, I can really see any ordering. Honestly, I could understand someone putting number 1 first or whatever.
I mean, people put 2 up there for Joseph. Like, yeah,
Sorry,
I mean,
that was my cat. He's
sorry.
trying to get in the door.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, the real reason people put 2 number 1 is because it's their favorite Joestar. But I don't think it's enough to say, oh, I like Joseph, so I like Part 2. Part 2 has its own problems, and
Part 2's got cars somehow. What are you talking about?
yeah, I agree. It's got cars.
Wamu.
But
AC/DC.
yeah, I mean,
Good old days.
I like those.
Come
and
on.
that create all the memes, right? But I don't think
Nazis.
the meme fodder is just a good enough reason for me to like rate it when I think that 5 does so much good, like in terms of improvements on for those parts. Those are much shorter parts as well. Like Part 1, Part 2 are much shorter parts. And now that we've got something really long, for them to sustain the hype level and the excitement level for so long in Part 5, I think it was admirable. There was not a downbeat. It was only towards the end we started questioning, what the hell is this? Why are they doing this? Up until that point.
I still had fun at the end.
Yeah, like we had a lot of fun with that, so I don't want to go back on that. But actually, speaking to you, Ringler, and speaking to you, Prince, I take on board what you're saying. So that's why 5 isn't top place, like joint first with 3 right now. So
We got one last ranking.
yeah, Giovanni.
Oh, okay. So I'll go from least favorite to favorite. I don't know about. I know Moyne doesn't like this part. Let me rephrase. Okay, so my least favorite is Diamonds Unbreakable.
Yeah,
I when I was watching it leading up to catching up on Golden Wind, like I remember watching one episode, I thinking, oh, okay, I'll just push through. But every time I tried to watch Diamonds Unbreakable, especially the first year, like I was struggling to keep up because of how slow it was kicking in. By the time Rohan shows up, as well as Kira, that's when I started to enjoy it. But I still didn't. I think it might have been Josuke that might have been a factor as to why I didn't care for Diamonds Unbreakable at times. I mean, I understand that Josuke was meant to be more aloof or something, but I just couldn't really click with the character at times. I would say my 4th favorite would be Golden Wind. And while it was fun to watch, I actually thought the ending was, as one of you guys mentioned, it was rushed, but I thought they could have done more with the ending, but as well as Giorno having broken stand abilities. Even though one of them did have an enjoyable scene with Diabolo's loop, wah, wah, wah. I don't know, for some reason, that stuck in my head ever since I saw that one of those episodes. I also kind of wish some of the main characters were characterized better than what we got, especially with is it Abacchio or Abacchio? The one that was the one that was suddenly killed off like out of the blue. I was like, okay, whatever. Like why? Like I wish there was. I don't know. Although they did give him a backstory, but I wish there was more to the characters than what we got. Let's see. My 3rd favorite would be Battle Tendency, and it's kind of almost the same reason for Diamonds Unbreakable, but I do like more in that one. But I felt that one took its time too. But I mean, that one was fun. Okay, hold on a second. Someone's calling me. Okay. Can anyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Because someone called me. I hope that did anything get cut off or nothing?
You're good.
You're good.
Okay. Just making sure. Yeah, I actually do like Joseph Joestar, but for whatever reason, I liked him more in Stardust Crusaders, especially with the heavily memeable quotes he has, with "Oh my God" and all that stuff. Which, yeah, I think we all love the old Joseph Joestar in Stardust Crusaders. I think the villains are wide out tendencies in the middle for me. I get some of the significance of the Stone Pillarman, but I didn't find them as memorable as, say, Dio or. Actually, I didn't find them as memorable as Dio. Okay, this might surprise some people with my top two. So my second favorite would be Stardust Crusaders. It was largely because I actually liked the main cast in that one a lot, and also because of some of the quotable moments in it too. Joseph, like old Joseph Joestar, Capioing, especially with his which, yeah, I get a kick out of that.
The memes.
Yeah, it was heavily memeable. I mean, heck, I also like Polnareff. I didn't think I would like him. I thought, yeah, I probably wouldn't like him as much, but I actually grown to like him, especially Avdol as well.
Yeah.
And perhaps, I mean, the only one I really didn't care for as much was JoJo compared to the others, but I mean, that was just because JoJo was just this stoic, like, stand user pretty much, but I mean, that one I had a lot of fun with, especially the Oingo Boingo brothers. God, what was that one thing we... I mean, there's a lot of stuff I remember from Stardust Crusaders, which is why I had a lot of fun with it, which actually leaves Phantom Blood being my favorite, because I actually like the setup of the whole series. And I don't understand why that one gets a lot of crap. I get it; it was the shortest, but I actually like how they established like what the series was. But what the heck was that? Is someone calling for you, Ryan?
Nope, calling for my sister.
So yeah, you have a number one, which is actually that's surprising. I don't hate part one, but
I
don't understand. I mean, I get it. I get it. Phantom Blood's short and all, but I think I like. Well, I mean, as short as it is, they actually do set up like Jonathan Joestar, Dio, and although they don't introduce the stands through Phantom Blood, but that's kind of fine. But hey, Noir, stop clawing my mattress! Knock it off! Get out! Hey, stop! Sorry, my cat's was trying to play with me, and he's clawing my mattress.
Yeah, the setting for part one is quite unfamiliar to people as well. I think the setting in London, you know, what I mean, British gentleman, that kind of thing really threw people off because you're not used to seeing that in anime when you start. Yeah. But I think the shock of the MC dying at the end of part one also got people on board. Like, whoa, this doesn't happen. They killed off our titular character. What's gonna happen next? So, and then
I was so happy when that happened.
To be honest, same here.
I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Finally.
And actually, the thing with Phantom Blood is I remember it was actually, I mean, it had its emotional moments too, especially with George Joestar, getting killed. Even though Stardust Crusaders does have its, I just realized Battle Tendency had one particular emotional moment that people do remember. Caesar. Caesar Zeppeli, and then there was and then there's Cap going his. I'm not gonna lie, that one kind of got me the most was Cap going Iggy, because I actually liked him a lot.
I disliked Kakui. Like, of all the Stardust Crusaders, I didn't really feel for Kakui that much. I don't know why, but
you got like one little backstory at the very end, and that's it. You just didn't really get much to him.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but for some reason, like I mean, the interesting thing about Phantom Blood is every time I rewatch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I always get a kick out of watching Phantom Blood all over again, because it's like, hey, this is how JoJo started. This is actually where like I kind of, it's one part I never get tired of, and it's the one I never really have that many problems with compared to maybe some of the others. Although Battle Tensei and Stars Crusaders, I don't have too much of an issue compared to the parts 4 and 5, because I mean I kind of have my criticisms with Golden Wind, but I mean it did make up for Diamonds Unbreakable, because at least with Golden Wind it like I could binge it, unlike Diamonds Unbreakable. So I at least kind of have fun with Golden Wind, but. Yeah. I feel as if Stars Crusaders was the peak of JoJo, unless Stone Ocean proves me wrong, but I haven't read it, so I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I think part four gets criticized because people wanted more part 3. They wanted more part 3, so I think, even I felt like that. Like, to its credit, I think part 4 is actually a decent part. It's just maybe I was going into it wanting more part 3, which created all the memes and everything like that. And when it slowed it down, it was just jarring to do that. It's like going from Dark Souls to Sekiro, right? Is that kind of effect from going from part 3 to part 4? So I think that's the reason why.
Yeah, and the thing is, when I was watching Diamonds Unbreakable, I kind of figured Araki wanted to kind of change up the tone of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, probably to distinguish Diamonds Unbreakable from the others, but it's kind of hard for me to jump into Diamonds Unbreakable given how much of a high that Stars Crusaders left off with. And then you got Golden Wind being, I would say, probably more digestible compared to Diamonds Unbreakable. So it kind of makes it harder for me to forgive Diamonds Unbreakable at times, but again, there's always parts 6 through 8 that might raise Diamonds Unbreakable up a bit. Again, I have no comment because I have not read parts 6 through 8. I haven't even read the manga, so but I've seen the anime all the way through, at least.
Hey Ryan, isn't part 6 the one where they're on horseback for the majority of it?
Where they're what?
They're on horseback?
No, that's part 7.
Oh wow!
Part 7. I thought that was part 6, but I realized it's Jolene that's part 6. I got that one wrong.
Yeah, part 6 is Jolene. Part 7, I'll say this: after part 6, the series takes kind of a turn, and it gets set up with why that happens in part 6, like why it goes to a western.
Yeah, part 7 is like almost everyone's favorite.
Yeah.
It's widely respected as the favorite. I haven't finished reading it, but I can definitely see why it's really well written.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. If we get
Hope they get adapted. Yeah.
In 2029.
Yeah, I honestly not sure if that would ever get adapted. I'm not sure if it would really do well as an adaptation, honestly. It's what I've read.
Some people said that it'd be hard
to
do.
Like, I'm excited for part 6 a lot, just I kind of feel like that's the part that could do the most from an adaptation.
Yeah, I think they've done the archetype. To be honest, the fact that I know that it's got a female Joestar, right? So I think we've kind of exhausted the male archetypes that you could think of, right? Like Clint Eastwood as Jotaro. You've got the lovable rogue. You've got the punk school kid. You got Jono, who is like this almost messianic, like Joestar. So I'm ready now for like a different take on a Joestar. So I think it'd be really good that the one big difference with the 6+6, I think, will be that we've got a female Joestar and see what that brings to like the whole show and everything like that. I think that'd be kind of cool. Yeah.
All right.
Prince.
Well, yeah. Agree. I agree. I mean, considering how many people have said that part 7 is like the greatest thing ever since sliced bread, which in my opinion makes no sense, because toasted bread is better than sliced bread, but that's a different discussion. I want to see part 7. I want to see part 6. I want to see the continuation of it all, but knowing JoJo, it's probably going to take a while. Part 5, how long did that take? 4 years? 5 years? I'm not sure, but it took quite a while.
For 2.
2.5.
2.5.
Yeah. Was that it?
About that long. 2. It was at least 2.
Felt like it was much longer. Well, in that case, I guess I won't have to wait until 2025 or 2030. Maybe we'll get it by 2024.
2027.
Get it by Trump's out.
Yeah. I hope I'm still alive by the time it comes out.
Yeah, we'll be around.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
if Part 8, if the manga of JoJo Part 8's not done yet, then I'd say David Productions should probably wait until Part 8's over, then do it, because I really don't want to see filler, like anime exclusive stuff for JoJo.
I'm not sure how long Part 8's gonna take for this. That's monthly.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how long that is. It is long and how much is left. So that could be going on for a while longer.
Well, if you think about it, they're going to have at least like 5 years. So that's at least 60 more chapters. So hopefully...
Yeah, that's true. Then only one more part after that.
Did they say it's 9 parts?
Yeah, he said it's going to end at part 9.
Oh, man. All right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure once he sees the money, it's gonna be like, you know what? Actually, let's make it. Did I say 9 parts? I meant 90.
It'd be like Tarantino, like stop at 10, right? Be like Tarantino.
We're gonna do the next 9 now.
Hey, maybe Giorno should come back for JoJo Part 9 and have like Gold Experience Revolution or something. Make it a little nod to Revolution number 9 from the Beatles, where it was like a bunch of noises and you heard number 9, number 9, number 9, and make that callback to Diabolo's looping.
He probably would do more contemporary references. I think with the time, probably by that point. I don't know if that's the case, but probably.
Gonna have like a Justin Bieber mainstay.
Drake and Bieber.
Oh god.
Yeah, I know a British alternative rock band that I would love to hear be named for a stand at least. Because they got Oasis, they got Green Day, they got some bands from the 90s. I'm like, okay, we got Green Day, Oasis. How about Radiohead for a stand name? I actually would like to hear that. Who knows? Yeah. Maybe they could. Maybe that stand could pick up signals, like broadcasting signals, like TV or radio stations or something.
That wouldn't be broken enough.
It would be the perfect.
It's similar to Joseph Joestar's ability in Part 3.
Yeah, actually.
A lot of people were talking about how if he had just used that ability more, they would have saved so much trouble in Part 3.
Yeah.
He just used it sparingly.
Yeah, and Hamon just, I know Hamon, people were pissed that Hamon disappeared, right? But because it felt like Hamon was, inherent to Joestar's, and it just disappeared. And when Dio awoke, Stan started appearing. I still have confusions about that. But
I'd like to see Caesar do his bubble shit in front of Bilbo or something.
Yeah.
Hey, I can create bubbles. Well, I can stop time.
Look at me breathe. Well, I'm not going to wait for you to breathe. Skip time, dead.
It's true. Just don't let him exhale. Let him inhale, but don't let him exhale.
Skipping the part where you exhale. You have CO2 poisoning. Okay.
Yeah. Shit. It makes me think that I wish I'd seen more, man, of King Crimson, but what can you do?
I think that wraps it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was a privilege and an honor, ladies and gentlemen, to have this Part 5 discussion, which pretty much ended up with us trash talking it about it towards the end. We were fair. But yeah, I mean, Part 5 has been fun. I'll say that it has been a lot of fun. JoJo in general has always been a lot of fun whenever it comes out. So I'm hoping that the future parts will be equally as fun as this one has been. But all I can say for now is this has been a fun podcast. This has been quite fun to discuss about certain things. Of course, it's been a while since we had one. But yeah, I mean, unless anyone has any last words to say, I think we'd call it a day.
No last words, Your Honor.
Yeah. Your Honor. Yeah, no last words, man. Is there a chat? Have you got a chat on Prince right now?
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's just that a lot of you guys were asking, right, for this podcast, because I know we missed a bunch of weeks. So for those of you who are joining Prince, right, for this podcast, thank you guys for joining, man, and being here, man. I hope you guys appreciate it.
Yep. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah, I got a few things to say.
Oh.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I remembered kind of bringing up the idea, or suggesting that I would join in one of these years, but again, it took me a while to finally jump into one. But I felt like I'm kind of glad I waited until like the last one. That way, I can kind of share some final thoughts because again, who knows? Like early thoughts, middle thoughts might differ from that. So I mean, I'm glad I actually made it to the end at least. So I guess for the time being, we'll just have to wait until Part 6 gets announced and perhaps just enjoy all the JoJo memes, such as this. I don't know if either of you heard that. It's Diabolo's
It's a 10,
Yeah.
it's a 10-hour repeat.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, thank you for having me along for the golden finale podcast.
This truly was the golden experience, ladies and gentlemen. Well,
oh yes,
we will see you all next time, whenever next time is, because we don't know when Part 6 will be.
I couldn't hold it in, Jesus.
Until then, everyone,
God,
peace out and have a nice day. Bye.
all right.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.